Welcome. We were discussing about innovation and entrepreneurship. We have seen how to innovate, and our next topic is trees, then design driven innovation and open innovation. Let us move forward. Trees is defined as theory of inventive problem solving. Theory of inventive problem solving. Trees actually is a difficult topic, meaning that it needs a lot of time to explain. It's a long topic actually, not difficult, but then what I will do is I will just give you an overview about trees without really going into details. So, trees is like this. Altshuler was a person, was a Russian, and he was exploring patents for a long time, particularly the abstract of the patent. People say that he actually evaluated 4 lakh patents, something like that. So, while exploring the patent, Altshuler realized that there is a pattern of invention, meaning all the inventions can be classified into separate clusters. So, you invent something, it is possible that this will fall under a particular cluster. So, from there he back calculated, saying that if you have a problem, then you have to really identify under which cluster your problem lies. Then he identified 40 separate cluster of solutions, meaning that your problem will solution of your problem will be found in this 40 clusters. So, you identify which one of this 40 cluster actually can give you a solution. Then you start from there, you cut down the time for idea generation, then exploration, then eventually you come up with maybe 3, 4, 5 ideas. You start prototyping from starting from the best among them, and then gradually eliminate. Out of 5 you ultimately retain 1 or 2, prototype and then validate. So, the whole process of technology development, the time taken for technology development comes down drastically. That is what trees actually does. It is an empirical method, meaning that you have a problem, there are basket of solutions. So, you enter inside the basket and see which one actually matches your requirement. Then you study that particular domain deeply and try to make a correlation and then come up with a solution. That is what trees actually is. Now, this is showing it graphically. Trees actually talks about a new variable called ideality. Ideality means how ideal is your solution, and there is a formula I will show you, and it comes up with 40 principles. Principles, that is a trend of technology evolution. It is a database. It in fact has a matrix of 40 principles and 39 constraints, meaning you have the constraints and you have the 40 possible solutions that can remove the constraints. Eventually, we have 76 inventive standard that gradually came up. So, this 30 elements, suppose you have a problem, then you try to identify which of these 30 elements is similar to your problem. Elements means these are also problems. So, you try to classify your problem out of this 39, means wherever it falls. Then that is this 39 is the world of the problem, means all the problems in the world are classified or categorized under 39 types. So, you identify which type your problem is. Then there is a world of solution, these 40 solutions. So, if you have a problem, then through the matrix you can actually identify this is my solution. You do not have to really explore 40 principles or 40 solutions. Just from the matrix you can actually immediately identify this is my solution. Now, using the solution you start building a product. So, there is a long way to go. It is not that you just have a solution. So, eventually you find a solution. That is the philosophy. Trees is an empirical method, as I said. It involves brainstorming, then synectic, as I just defined in the previous session. lateral thinking, there are vertical thinking and lateral thinking. Vertical thinking is the thinking of traditional, meaning you have the cognitive knowledge and you think that way. Lateral thinking is thinking which is not there in the world and you are thinking, you are trying to create something new. Then neuro-linguistic programming, all this has been used to create this matrix, mind mapping. So, we will move forward. It is not working. There is this challenge of idea getting into product. People say that 1 out of 3000 ideas eventually sustain till you develop a product. Then 1 out of maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 products become successful. So, that is the challenge before us, and every idea, converting every idea into something tangible involves money, talent, time, resources. So, all resources go down the drain. People say that more than 50% of the resources are wasted chasing or pursuing ideas which are not tenable. So, a shortcut is so very attractive and trees gives us that. And here is just a small part of a screenshot from Wikipedia. So, you can visit Wikipedia and see the detailed list, how this 40 principle and 30 constraints have been put in a matrix, and how actually every problem can have a kind of a similar looking problem from where you can bring ideas. So, this has been inspired from a presentation in SlideShare given by NASA. I have given you the link, you can see that it is almost like a copy of that, but the point is the red line is a straight line method of, or say vertical method of thinking, meaning you have a systematic method of product development. So, you start ideation, then all the steps together, whatever. So, eventually you have a deadline, you have to come up with a solution within that time, but you compromise on the type or quality of the solution. Whereas, using trees you have a shortcut, you have a plethora of solution space from where you can find out a suitable solution in a short time, and then eventually you come up with something with so much of confidence that yes, this is a solution that is going to solve my problem. Here is the ideality equation. Ideality equation says that you have to try to continuously eliminate deficiency of the original system, meaning that there is a product somewhere, you try to eliminate the deficiency, preserve the advantage, do not kind of curtail the advantage, make the system, do not make the system more complicated. So, try simplicity. Simplicity is an huge virtue. So, do not sacrifice on that. You should not introduce any disadvantage. So, the formula says ideality is equal to benefit divided by cost plus harm, meaning improve the benefit, reduce the cost, reduce the harm, and that becomes a better product. Now, we talked about design throughout this innovation and entrepreneurship sessions. So, design actually refers to form, function, experience, but if you view a product as a bunch of features, then you are actually eliminating design from there. Design goes beyond bunch of features. It has many other things which may not be even visible. So, for example, say aesthetic is one, say the form is another one. So, functions may be just a few of the features that is visible. Now, before we go to say open innovation or design driven innovation, let us just say how product development processes normally traditionally are viewed as. It is views, there may be many other views, or people may have come up with many other steps, maybe rather than 6 there may be 10, there may be 20 or 100 or maybe 2, but just one particular house of thinking is like it starts, the step 1 is define your problem, step 2 is gather data, define the problem. Unless you define the problem completely or more exhaustively, the solution will elude you, obviously, because you try to find a solution with partial knowledge about the problem, then you may actually aggravate the one that you do not see. So, that is why it is necessary to define the problem completely. Then you have to collect information both about the problem and about solution space, meaning how many solutions, what kind of solutions are possible. Then you do brainstorming, you bring people of not just technology people, bring people of from all walks of life, and should this problem before them, or even the kind of solutions that you are thinking, they will come up with ideas from their own domain, from different other domains. Based on whatever knowledge you can gather, you collate, do research, and then find out something and try to develop a prototype. Then you give it to the user, get feedback, and based on the feedback you improve. That is the traditional design process that people follow. I took it from discoverdesign.com, is a kind of a blog, so you can see more there. Next item is design thinking. Design thinking had always been there, perhaps since time antiquity, but then it has been given a formal shape, so that we all are forced to or channeled to see design from a particular perspective. So, came design thinking. Design thinking is best defined by Tim Brown of Stanford University, and he is the CEO or founder of IDEO. IDEO is a great design house. He defines it this way: design thinking is a discipline that uses the designer's sensibility and methods. Remember, designers have a different kind of mindsets, different kind of scope of their thinking, larger scope of thinking, to match people's needs with what is technologically feasible and what a viable business strategy can convert into customer value and market opportunity. He also says, thinking like a designer can transform the way you develop products, services, processes, and even strategies. Even like Mahatma Gandhi, what he designed is a strategy to remove poverty, or a strategy to give them a square meal or create employment. So, strategy also can be designed. Here is another statement by Tim Brown: to harness the power of design thinking, individuals, teams, and organizations have to cultivate optimism. As I said at the very beginning, leap of faith. Unless you believe that there is a solution, solution will never come. So, you must have this belief that there is a solution, there is a better way of doing things that is going to create a positive impact to the society, that is going to meet some, that is going to satisfy or fulfill some unmet needs. And you must also believe that you are also a designer. You must not think that I never designed anything, so I am not a designer. I never enrolled in a course of design, so I am not a designer, nothing like that. Everybody is a designer. You have your creative side of the brain, you have your subconscious, use that for creating. In the process, you become more creative and you start creating more and more for people, for your target audience. So, it is a continuous effort of churning your subconscious, your cognitive skill, your team, everything. Even the interior of a room is part of a design. Design a product or service through direct object, particularly design thinking actually involves human. They always say it is human centric effort in designing, meaning that human means not only the designer, it involves many people outside the design community, particularly people with the pain. So, you involve people with the pain all through the design process to give it a human touch, to give your design a human touch or make it human centric. That is how they define it. And very importantly, designers are not problem focused. You have the problem, okay, we have got the problem. Once there is a problem, you define the problem completely, now you are solution focused. You try to find a solution that will fulfill. Normally design thinking is thought to have 5 components or building blocks. It starts with empathize. Empathize meaning understanding somebody's pain by feeling the pain. You may sympathize with somebody, but that comes from the mind, it does not come from the heart, if you consider heart and mind are 2 things. Suppose one of your friend telephones you or tells you somebody has expired, you say, oh, I am sorry. But suppose you have broken your hand at some point of time or leg some point of time. Now, you see one of your friend also have broken the hand or leg, you immediately realize the pain, the trauma that the person is going through. That is what is empathizing. The previous one is sympathizing. So, any customer having a pain, you just look at him and think that okay, let us find a solution, is sympathizing. That will not lead you to develop a product that is going to solve alleviate the pain the way you want to or they want to. Whereas, you try to empathize, you try to understand the pain not just by looking at it, you try to even get the pain, feel the pain, means suffer the pain whatever way possible, not that you just break your hand or something, but try to go as deeper as possible. That is what is empathizing. The moment you empathize, you can define the problem completely. Otherwise, you will look at somebody having a pain, you will think that this pain is the thing, but suppose somebody has stomach pain. Now, he tells you I have a stomach pain is nowhere close to the definition of the problem. Now, maybe he has indigestion, maybe he has many other ailments which has caused this pain. So, unless you define that problem completely, the situation, what he ate earlier, what actually led to this today's situation, unless you go deeper inside, you will not be able to define the problem completely. You will give him a pill that will not solve his problem completely. Maybe you give a painkiller that does not cure the problem. You have to understand the problem. So, define, do the entire diagnostic. Once you define the problem, now you can ideate, come up with ideas, tons of ideas. You do not reject any idea to be crazy or untenable. Bring all the ideas. Normally in IDEO or in Stanford University, they will have a huge canvas or a screen and they have sticky notes. They will write the ideas and paste it there, and then somebody will collate all the ideas, maybe 100, maybe 500, maybe 1000 of them. And they will collate, they will categorize them, and then they will try to see the similar ideas, they will place ones, and so that they have something like 5 or 6 types of different channels of thought. Then they will try to analyze which one is better, or whether they can combine all these ideas into one single thought or two or 3 or 4 or 5 thoughts. Then out of them they will do brainstorm and then find out 1, 2, 3 for prototyping. So, you have to really create lot of ideas. Design thinking also is referred to as a process of divergence convergence process. So, divergence convergence process, meaning that you generate huge number of ideas, umpteen number of ideas, then you categorize them under different channels of thought and then combine them. So, there is a huge divergence at the beginning and then you converge to maybe 1, 2, 3 something. Then the 1 to 3 that you select, 1 or 2 or 3, you will start prototyping. You start with the best possible one, either you discard that or you move forward, you prototype for the next one, third one, fourth, or how many you have selected, and then eventually you get it customer validated. So, the last stage is test. So, you test your product, prototype, and then get customer validated. If it is not validated, you come back to again at any stage of time. Importantly, customers or the people who have the pain are always part of the development. So, it is not necessary that at the time of testing only you are going to the customer. Customers may actually give you a lot of ideas that you may not come up, and those ideas may actually prevail eventually. So, customers or the people with the pain should be there, because the pain actually will will give them, will or motivate them or inspire them to come up with solutions that otherwise may not actually arrive. So, I have this slides on all the 5 building blocks. Most importantly, we traditionally we have a tunnel vision, meaning that if I look at a problem, I will think from the perspective of an existing knowledge, how I have analyzed or comprehended certain kind of problem. There is a resistance to go beyond that, meaning we normally do not deviate from our channelized thought. So, design thinking actually, because there is a team, there are diverse thinking, because there are customers involved. So, you are forced to go beyond the channel and think out of the channel, and that is absolutely necessary, because your mind needs to filter out a lot of information and then keep only those that is relevant and that is related to the pain and come up with a solution. So, empathize is definitely part of it. Your understanding defines and design the space of the large measure, because means if you understand the problem well, then you can actually enlarge the scope of the solution space. Define and redefine, meaning that you define and then chances are that you are going to discard that, then you are going to define it even better, meaning that the first solution does not work. So, you redefine the problem. The goal is to craft an actionable problem statement, where you can put create strategies that can on which you can act and create a prototype. You synthesize information, discover and connect pattern, as I said, channelizing them. So, once you create, like it is a combination of several innovation tools, like the trees is a tool, but you see that trees also in a very indirect way is applied in design thinking. So, you actually channelize and you try to connect existing knowledge with this to come up with a solution. Ideate, meaning divergence and then convergence. So, uncover some unexpected thought, unexpected ideas, and you should not throw away anything, you should keep everything. So, the beginning, this is divergence, and then eventually you converge to limited number. So, this we have already discussed, but you have to keep a sharp eye on the user's perspective from all possible angles, such as economy, culture, unique environment of working, available infrastructure, utility, maintainability, serviceability and preservability. Because unless you have everything into mind, at the back of your mind, you will come up with an idea. Suppose you have developed something, say that should be manufactured, you will using injection molding machine. Now, you design something that may not be, you may not be able to build that using plastic molding. There are limitations of every machine. There may be limitations of serviceability. You have developed something that cannot be opened, then now something happens inside, you have to throw it out. So, it becomes useless. So, you have to think of the prevailing infrastructure, prevailing knowledge, prevailing skill to machine, to manufacture. Only then perhaps you come up with a doable, actionable items, means you can manufacture, you can make a useful or meaningful solution. Then prototype and eventually test, get validated. Here comes the theory of lean product development. So, get validated on a regular basis, not just on the last stage, but at every stage your customer is sitting right with you, get validated and move forward. Redefine is necessary, meaning that suppose still customers are not happy, but you have come up with the final model. So, you have to redefine the whole process and come back using them. Now, which people are good for design thinking? Design thinking has assumed great significance in product development. People are using it left and right. IBM has come up with their own design thinking framework. this is slightly different than, means they have added value to standard method, but who are the people who can become a design thinker? First is empathy, meaning people who can actually can connect with other people and understand their philosophy, their perspective. Like say you understand the perspective of customer or your fellow employees or say some designers. So, you have to understand the perspective of everybody, be able to empathize, whether suppose there is a machine man, whether it can be machined or not, you must understand his or her pain as well or their perspective as well. So, one must have empathy for everybody. Integrative thinking, meaning that they can think and think from the perspective of all these people. It's a ability to understand contradictory philosophies. Like as I said, we have a tunnel vision. So, we think in a path, but there are people who can actually think other way also, meaning something which is contradictory, which is conflicting, they are capable of connecting these two, meaning think in both direction and then connecting the two. So, eventually they come up with dramatically improved existing alternative solutions. Third is optimism, the leap of faith that I said. They assume no matter how challenging the situation is, it is always possible to come up with a solution which is better than the existing alternatives, and they do not hesitate to do experimentation over and over again. I talked about Dyson. Dyson himself says that for his first prototype, he made something like 3000 plus prototypes. Only after 3000 something prototypes, his final model was emerged. So, that is the way experimentation is to be done, meaning one has to really be following this prototyping and testing again and again. Collaboration, one must be able to collaborate with all participating team members, interdisciplinary, sometimes different domains, like you are developing something, maybe you need people from software, maybe from hardware, maybe the designer, mechanical engineer perhaps. Now, design and simplicity are so very correlated, meaning that you design something and make it complex is no good design. You must always keep that in mind, that simplicity should be the bedrock when you are actually embarking on a design. Look what Steve Jobs has said. That has been one of my mantras. Jobs said, focus on simplicity. Simple can be harder than complex. You have to work hard to get your thinking clean to make it simple, but it is worth it in the end, because once you get there, you can move mountains. Simplicity is a design philosophy that is championed by both successful companies and the fans who follows their product. And how to make product simple? Maintain clarity, understand and design for your users' goals, not to just make it beautiful, but have this goal in mind. Make use of automation, keep things as simple as possible, limit options, do not have too many buttons, do not clutter, reduce the gulf of execution, meaning you do not expect your customers to be highly knowledgeable and then give some complex method of even unboxing and then installation and all that. It should be very simple. To drive home the point that simplicity actually is the winning design. This was the landing page of GoDaddy, but then business was not going anywhere. Then after a lot of brainstorming, they came up with this design which is much simpler, and then business started growing like anything. Look at the landing pages at some point of time that Yahoo had. It is just a screenshot. It is so complex, you will not find what you want to find. And look at Google landing page. It is so clear. They are clear about their business, they are clear about their customer, what they want. If you are not aware, Yahoo used to be a company of $125 billion when Google did not start. Google was not born when Yahoo was valued $125 billion. Today, after investing maybe tens of $billions, Yahoo is now valued only $5 billion, whereas Google is valued about $1,000 billion. I do not say that simplicity is the only thing, but simplicity in your thought process will give rise to many business processes, simpler business processes, that is going to help you to win business and become successful. We will end this session here. Thank you for this session.